The locker room door slammed open, and my heart stopped. I stood there, half-dressed, my shirt caught mid-pull over my head, as Coach Daniel's shadow loomed in the doorway. His eyes locked onto mine, and in that split second, I knew my secret was no longer safe. My name is Ethan Caldwell, 22, a junior at Crestwood College in Oregon, and I've spent the last 3 years hiding who I am. Growing up in a small, conservative town in Idaho, I learned early to keep my head down and my feelings buried. Football was my escape, a way to prove I was tough, normal, one of the guys. But in the quiet moments, when the stadium lights dimmed and the cheers faded, I couldn't escape the truth. I was in love with Lucas Harper, my teammate, my best friend, and the one person who could unravel everything I'd built. It was late September, and the air in Crestwood carried the crisp bite of fall. The locker room smelled of sweat, leather, and cheap body spray, a familiar haze after another grueling practice. Our team, the Crestwood Cougars, was gearing up for a crucial game against our rivals, the Ashland Hawks. Coach Daniels, a former linebacker with a voice like gravel and a reputation for zero tolerance, had been riding us hard all week. "No distractions," he'd barked that morning. "Focus or you're off the team." His words echoed in my head as I lingered in the locker room, waiting for the others to clear out. Lucas was the last to stay, as always. At 23, he was a year ahead of me, a senior with a quiet confidence that drew people in. His curly blonde hair was perpetually messy, and his blue eyes held a spark of mischief that made my stomach flip. We'd been inseparable since freshman year, bonded over late-night study sessions and shared dreams of making it to the pros. But somewhere along the way, our friendship blurred into something more. Stolen glances, lingering touches, moments we never dared name. "Ethan, you okay?" Lucas asked, his voice low as he tied his sneakers. He was sitting on the bench across from me, his gym bag slung over one shoulder. The locker room was empty now, just the two of us, the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. "Yeah," I lied, pulling my shirt off and tossing it into my locker. My pulse raced, not from practice but from the weight of his gaze. I could feel it, the unspoken question hanging between us. We'd been dancing around this for months, maybe years, moments where our hands brushed, where our eyes held too long, where the air felt electric with possibility. But neither of us had crossed that line. Not yet. Lucas stood, stepping closer. "You've been quiet lately. Something's up." His voice was soft, but there was an edge to it, like he was daring me to say it. I turned to face him, my bare chest prickling in the cool air. "It's nothing," I said, but my voice cracked, betraying me. His eyes searched mine, and for a moment, I forgot how to breathe. He was so close now, close enough that I could smell the faint cedar of his cologne, see the freckles dusting his nose. My hand twitched, wanting to reach out to close the gap. And then it happened. Lucas took a step, his fingers brushing mine, tentative but deliberate. My heart thundered as he leaned in, his breath warm against my cheek. "Ethan," he whispered, and that was all it took. I closed the distance, my lips meeting his in a kiss that felt like falling and flying all at once. It was soft at first, hesitant, then urgent, like we'd been starving for this and didn't know it. His hands found my waist, pulling me closer, and for one perfect moment, the world was just us. That's when the door slammed open. Coach Daniels stood frozen in the doorway, his broad frame blocking the light. His face was a mask of shock, then something harder. Disgust, maybe, or betrayal. My stomach dropped as Lucas pulled back, his eyes wide with panic. I wanted to speak, to explain, but my throat was dry, my body rooted to the spot. "Get dressed," Coach growled, his voice low and dangerous. "Both of you. My office. Now." We scrambled to comply, my hands shaking as I yanked on my shirt. Lucas avoided my eyes, his jaw tight, and the silence between us was deafening. As we followed Coach down the hall, my mind raced. This was it, the moment I'd feared since I first realized I wasn't like the other guys. Crestwood wasn't exactly a bastion of progress. The team was a brotherhood, but it was built on unspoken rules. Toughness, loyalty, and no complications. Being gay, that was a complication. Coach's office was a shrine to his glory days. Trophies, faded jerseys, a photo of him shaking hands with some NFL scout. He sat behind his desk, his hands clasped tightly, and gestured for us to sit. The chairs were hard, cold, like the look in his eyes. "Explain," he said, his voice flat. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Lucas shifted beside me, his knee brushing mine under the desk. "Coach," he started, his voice steady despite the tension. "This isn't what it looks like. Don't lie to me, Harper," Coach snapped. "I saw enough. You two think you can pull this stunt in my locker room? On my team?" "It's not a stunt," I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. My voice trembled, but I pushed on. "It's who we are." Coach's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, I thought he might throw us out right then. Instead, he leaned back, his chair creaking. "You know what this team means to this town. To me. You think you can just flaunt this? You think the guys will be okay with it? The boosters? The fans?" "We're not flaunting anything," Lucas said, his tone sharp. "We're just trying to live." Coach snorted, shaking his head. "Live somewhere else, then. This is a football team, not a soap opera. You've got until tomorrow to decide. Keep this under wraps, or you're both off the team." The words hit like a punch. Football was everything, my scholarship, my future, my identity. Losing it would mean losing part of myself. But as I glanced at Lucas, his face pale but defiant, I realized something else. Losing him would be worse. We left the office in silence, the weight of Coach's ultimatum hanging over us. Outside, the campus was quiet, the sky bruised with twilight. Lucas stopped by a bench near the quad, his hands shoved in his pockets. "What do we do, Ethan?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," I admitted. My chest ached, torn between fear and something fiercer. Anger, maybe, or resolve. "But I'm not ashamed of you, of us." His eyes met mine, and for the first time that night he smiled. A small, fragile thing, but enough to make my heart stutter. "Me neither," he said. "But it's gonna get messy." He wasn't wrong. As we stood there, the future felt like a storm gathering on the horizon. I didn't know what would happen next, whether we'd fight, run, or lose everything. But one thing was clear. The kiss in the locker room had changed everything, and there was no going back. The next morning, I woke to the sound of my phone buzzing like a hornet's nest. Texts from teammates, group chat notifications, a missed call from my mom. Word had spread faster than I'd feared. Someone had overheard Coach in the athletic department, or maybe he'd told them himself. Either way, by sunrise, the team knew about me and Lucas. I met Lucas at the campus coffee shop, a small place called Brood Awakening tucked between the library and the science hall. The air smelled of espresso and burnt toast, but the usual comfort of the place felt suffocating today. Lucas was already there, nursing a black coffee, his eyes shadowed from a sleepless night. I slid into the booth across from him, my stomach churning. "They're calling it a scandal," he said without preamble, his voice low. He slid his phone across the table, showing a group chat with the team. The messages were brutal. "You guys serious? This why you're always late, Harper? Coach is pissed. You're done." One guy, Jake, our linebacker, had posted a meme of two guys kissing with a caption that made my face burn. I pushed the phone away. What do we do? I asked, echoing his question from last night. My hands were clammy, my coffee untouched. I'd spent the night replaying Coach's words, imagining the worst. Losing my scholarship, my spot on the team, my place at Crestwood. But worse than that was the thought of Lucas pulling away, of us pretending this never happened. Lucas leaned forward, his elbows on the table. We could deny it, he said, but his tone lacked conviction. Say it was a misunderstanding. Might buy us some time. And then what? I asked sharper than I meant. Go back to hiding? Pretend we're just friends. The word felt like a blade, cutting through the fragile thing we'd started. He flinched, but his eyes held mine. I don't want that, Ethan. But this town, this team, they're not ready for us. You saw Jake's post. That's just the start. I knew he was right. Crestwood was progressive on paper. Rainbow flags at the student union, a pride club with 12 members. But the football team was its own world. The guys talked a big game about brotherhood. But I'd heard their locker room banter, the slurs tossed casually like they didn't cut. Coming out wasn't just a risk. It was a reckoning. Before I could respond, the bell above the door jingled, and Jake walked in with 2 other teammates, Ryan and Miguel. They spotted us immediately, their laughter dying as they approached. Jake, a broad-shouldered senior with a buzz cut, smirked. Well, if it isn't the Lovebirds. Knock it off, Jake, Lucas said, his voice calm but edged with steel. Jake raised his hands, mock innocence. Just saying, you two sure know how to stir up drama. Coach is losing his mind. Says you're a distraction. We're not the ones making it a distraction. I shot back, my voice louder than I intended. Heads turned from nearby tables, and I felt my face heat. Ryan, quieter than Jake but no less imposing, leaned in. Look, man, I don't care what you do off the field, but you're messing with the team. We've got Ashland in 2 days. You think we can focus with this hanging over us? Miguel nodded. Coach is talking about benching you both. Maybe worse. The words landed like a blow. Benching meant no playtime, no scouts, no future. I glanced at Lucas, but he was staring at the table, his jaw tight. Thanks for the heads up, he said finally, his voice flat. We'll handle it. The guys left, but the weight of their words lingered. Lucas sipped his coffee, his silence louder than any argument. We need to talk to Coach, he said at last, before he makes this official. The athletic department was a maze of cinderblock walls and motivational posters. Coach's door was ajar, and we found him hunched over game footage, his face grim. He didn't look surprised to see us. Sit, he said, not looking up. We sat, the same hard chairs from last night. I could still feel the ghost of Lucas's kiss, the warmth of his hands, but now it felt like a dream slipping away. Coach finally looked at us, his eyes tired but unyielding. I've been on the phone all morning. Boosters are asking questions. Parents. The dean. You two have put me in a hell of a spot. We didn't plan this, I said, my voice hoarse. We're just trying to be honest. Honest. Coach laughed, a bitter sound. You think honesty pays for scholarships? For stadium lights? This is Crestwood, boys. You don't get to rewrite the rules. Lucas leaned forward, his hands clenched. What if we keep it quiet? Off the field, out of sight. Can we stay? Coach studied him, then me. You're asking me to look the other way. To risk my job, this program, for you. He paused, his voice softening just a fraction. I don't hate you, Harper. Caldwell. You're good players. But it's bigger than you. The rest of the meeting was a blur. Ultimatums, deadlines, the threat of suspension. As we left, Lucas grabbed my arm, pulling me into an empty hallway. We can't let them win, he said, his voice fierce. If we hide, we're letting them control us. But if we don't, we lose everything, I said, my throat tight. The team are scholarships. Screw the scholarships. He cut in, his eyes blazing. I'd rather lose that than lose you. His words stopped me cold. For the first time, I saw it clearly. Lucas wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for us. And in that moment, I knew I couldn't let him do it alone. By noon, the campus was buzzing. Whispers followed us through the quad, eyes darting as we passed. Lucas and I stuck close, our shoulders brushing as we headed to the student union. We decided to fight, not just for our spots on the team, but for the right to be ourselves. It was a long shot, but hiding wasn't an option anymore. The union was packed, students sprawled across tables with laptops and smoothies. We found a quiet corner and started strategizing. Lucas pulled out his phone, scrolling through the team's group chat. Some of the guys are on our side, he said. Tyler, maybe Sophia. They're not loud about it, but they're not joining Jake's witch hunt. Sophia was our team manager, a sharp-witted sophomore who handled logistics and kept the guys in line. Tyler was a freshman kicker, quiet but observant. If we could get them to speak up, it might sway others. We need to talk to them, I said. Before practice. Practice. The word felt like a ticking clock. Coach had given us until the end of the day to fix this. But we both knew what that meant. Deny everything or lose our spots. The Ashland game was tomorrow, and the team was already on edge. Losing 2 starters could tank our season, but Coach seemed willing to take that hit to save face. We found Sophia outside the athletic complex, her dark hair pulled into a tight bun. She was sorting clipboards, her expression unreadable as we approached. Heard about your little drama, she said, not looking up. Whole campus is talking. Yeah, I said, shifting uncomfortably. We need your help, Soph. You know the team. You know how they think. She set the clipboards down, her eyes flicking between us. You're asking me to stick my neck out. For what? So you two can play Romeo and Juliet in cleats. It's not a game, Lucas said, his voice low. We're not asking for pity. We just want a fair shot. Sophia sighed, crossing her arms. Look, I don't care who you love, but the team's a mess. Jake's rallying the seniors, saying you're a liability. Coach is getting pressure from the boosters. If you want to stay, you need more than me. You need the team to back you. She was right. The team was a family, dysfunctional but loyal. If we could convince enough of them, Coach might hesitate to pull the trigger. We thanked Sophia and tracked down Tyler in the weight room, his lanky frame hunched over a bench press. He listened as we explained, his eyes wide but not hostile. I don't get why it's a big deal, he said finally, wiping sweat from his brow. You're still the same guys who carried us against Redmond last week. His words were a lifeline, small but real. By the time we headed to practice, we had a plan. Confront the team head-on, no apologies, no lies. The locker room was tense when we arrived, the air thick with unspoken questions. Jake and his crew stood by their lockers, their voices low but cutting. I caught fragments. Disrespect, team image, coach's call. Lucas stepped forward, his voice steady. We need to talk. All eyes turned to us. I felt exposed, like I was standing in that locker room half-dressed again, but Lucas's presence grounded me. You've all heard the rumors, he said. They're not rumors. Ethan and I were together, and we're not hiding it anymore. The silence was deafening. Then Jake laughed, a harsh, grating sound. You think you can just announce that and we'll all clap? This isn't a pride parade, Harper. Enough, Sophia snapped, stepping between us. They're not asking for your approval, Jake. They're asking to be treated like teammates. Tyler nodded, his voice quiet but firm. They're still Cougars. They've earned their place. A few others murmured agreement. Small voices, but enough to crack the tension. Not everyone was on board. Ryan and Miguel stayed silent, and a few others avoided our eyes. But for the first time, I felt a spark of hope. Maybe we weren't alone. Practice was brutal, not because of the drills but because of the divide. Jake and his group kept their distance, their passes to us deliberately off target. Coach watched from the sidelines, his expression unreadable. Afterward, he called us to his office again. "You're splitting the team," he said, his voice tired. "I warned you this would happen." "Then let us fix it," I said, surprising myself. "Give us a chance to prove we belong. On the field, where it matters." Coach rubbed his temples, his resolve wavering. "One game," he said finally. "Ashland. You play, you perform, and we'll talk. Screw up, and you're done." It wasn't a promise, but it was a chance. As we left, Lucas squeezed my hand, quick and hidden. "We've got this," he whispered, and for the first time I believed him. Game day dawned gray and cold, the kind of Oregon morning that seeped into your bones. The stadium was a sea of maroon and gold, Crestwood's colors, but the energy felt off, fractured, like the team itself. Lucas and I arrived early, warming up in silence as the stands filled. Every glance from a teammate, every whisper from the crowd, felt like a judgment. The Ashland Hawks were relentless, their defense a wall of muscle and strategy. We'd faced them before, but this time was different. The weight of Coach's ultimatum, the team's division, and our own fears pressed down on us. Lucas was our wide receiver, fast and precise, but Jake's crew was icing him out, their passes short or late. I played running back, relying on instinct and speed, but every tackle felt personal, like the Hawks knew we were vulnerable. By halftime, we were down 14-7. The locker room was a powder keg. Jake cornered us near the water cooler, his face red. "You're tanking us," he spat. "You and your little show." "Back off," Lucas said, stepping in front of me. "You're the one throwing bad passes." Jake shoved him hard. Before I could react, Sophia and Tyler were there, pulling them apart. "Enough," Sophia shouted. "We're a team. Act like it." The second half was a grind. I pushed harder, weaving through defenders, my legs burning. Lucas caught a long pass, his feet barely touching the ground as he sprinted for a touchdown. The crowd roared, and for a moment it felt like we were back. Us against the world, not each other. But Jake's group wasn't done. On the next play, Ryan missed a block, and I took a hit that left me gasping on the turf. As I staggered to my feet, Lucas was there, offering a hand. "You good?" he asked, his eyes searching mine. I nodded, but the doubt was creeping in. Could we really do this? Could we win not just the game but the right to stay? The final quarter was chaos. With seconds left, we were tied, and Coach called a risky play, a trick pass to Lucas. The huddle was tense, Jake's glare cutting through me. "Don't screw this up," he muttered. The ball snapped, and I ran, drawing defenders. Lucas broke free, his strides long and sure. The quarterback launched the pass. A perfect arc. Lucas leaped, catching it against his chest, and sprinted for the end zone. Touchdown. The stadium erupted, and for a moment, even Jake's crew joined the celebration. We won, 21-20. Exhausted, I found Lucas on the sideline, his face flushed with victory. Without thinking, I hugged him. The crowd's roar drowning out the world. It wasn't a kiss, but it was close, and I didn't care who saw. Coach called us to his office after the game. The team was still buzzing, but his face was grim. "You played well," he said, "but this doesn't change the problem. The boosters want you gone. They think you're a liability." "Then they're wrong," I said, my voice steady. "We just proved we belong. The team needs us." Coach sighed, his shoulders slumping. "I'll talk to them, but this isn't over. You've got a long road ahead." As we left, Lucas grabbed my hand, not caring who saw. "We did it," he said, his smile brighter than the stadium lights. One step at a time. But the victory felt fragile. The team was still split, the town still watching. And deep down, I knew the real fight was just beginning. The week after the game was a blur of meetings, whispers, and uneasy truces. Lucas and I were allowed to stay on the team, but coach's talk with the boosters didn't erase the tension. Jake and his crew kept their distance, their resentment simmering. The campus was a minefield. Supportive messages from the Pride Club mixed with cold stares from strangers. But Lucas and I were done hiding. We walked to class hand in hand, ate lunch together in the Union, lived openly in a way I'd never dared before. One night, we sat on a hill overlooking Crestwood, the town's lights twinkling below. Lucas leaned against me, his head on my shoulder. "You ever think about leaving?" he asked. "Starting over somewhere else?" I had 1,000 times. Somewhere big, anonymous, where we could just be us. But as I looked at him, his face soft in the moonlight, I knew I couldn't run. "This is our home," I said. "We've fought too hard to give it up." He smiled, kissing me softly. "Then we keep fighting." The next game was a turning point. Jake didn't apologize, but he threw clean passes to Lucas, and Ryan covered me on a crucial play. Sophia and Tyler rallied others, and slowly the team started to heal. Not everyone came around, some never would, but enough did to make a difference. Months later, at the end of the season, Coach called us to his office one last time. He looked older, worn by the fight we'd all been through. "You two changed things," he said, his voice gruff but not unkind. "I didn't expect that, but I'm proud of you. It wasn't perfect. The boosters still grumbled, and the town still whispered. But Lucas and I had each other, and we had the team, or at least enough of it to keep going. We'd carved out a space to be ourselves, not just for us but for anyone else who'd been hiding." As we left Coach's office, Lucas squeezed my hand. "Still can't believe it," he said, echoing the night that started it all. "We're still here, and we were, not just surviving but living openly, fiercely, unapologetically. The locker room, the team, the town. They'd all been battlegrounds, but we'd won something bigger. The right to love, to be seen, to belong. It wasn't the end of the fight, but it was a start, and that was enough."